eyes wide open. From shadowy figures stalking rural backroads, from towering wolf-like creatures emerging from the tree line, these sightings have left witnesses shaken, speechless, and forever changed. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
This is not a test. Reports are spreading across the state. Sightings in the North Woods, strange transmissions near the lake shore. If you're listening to this transmission, you're a part of the awakening.
I don't know if you've seen these kind of cathedrals, but they'll have like little indents, and then you might have like a person or a character that's significant or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, they have this dog-headed person, clearly anthropomorphic, clearly has human form, and then just has the head of a dog. But not a lot of writing like, oh, and this is why they carved that in there. They're just like, oh yeah, symbolism and stuff. And I'm like, who was thinking what when they carved this into a cathedral? There's so many visual depictions. We've been talking a lot about writings, but there are carvings and paintings and drawings and fabrics. So many things that show up in every type of form of art that you can think of. There are depictions of dog-headed people. Because part of the question is like, how do we miss this?
Mm-hmm.
How is it so all over the world? And yet, if you mention it to someone who hasn't heard about it already, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. How does nobody know about it and yet it's everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess is just part of being blinded? I mean, I'm sure there's just practical elements of it. I mean, there are tons of other things that come up in history nobody cares to talk about. You can only address so much in education. There's only so much you can talk about. But it is weird to me that it's just so prevalent and yet so few people have any idea about it.
We've got a lot of missing person reports from hunters who go missing, hikers who go missing, people who just want to go out for a walk in the woods missing. These are people who know the trails, they know the areas that they're going into, and they're never heard or seen from again.
Others describe being followed through the trees, hearing low growls just outside their tents, or finding claw marks in the dirt come morning.
Kentucky State Police believe an animal may have killed a 13-year-old boy. They just don't know what kind of animal did it. They say the boy was staying at a relative's house in Knott County Tuesday when state police were called to the area. Now, this is in south central Kentucky, not too far from Hazard. The teen was found on a hillside in a wooded area. Investigators say his injuries were consistent with those of an animal attack. The original call suggested it was possibly a canine type.
When I first started hearing about the Dogman stuff, I'm totally sure how I felt about the whole topic of Dogman.
Now it is, from what I've learned. Now
Yeah.
I know it's so easy to believe it now because you have to do research and you have to know by biblical facts, and you have to dig into that, and you'll find it there.
And you look at even the history of these things and the fact that they're drawn on maps as figures of lands that explorers have visited, and like there's a whole history behind it. And if you don't know that, it seems absurd. But once you start looking into it, and even like the spiritual side of things, the supernatural side of things, and people saying, can't tell me the times I've heard stories of people saying a demon dog showed up in my room. And it's like all of a sudden when you start hearing different aspects of these dogman encounters, you're like, these things may not be totally just this monster in the woods. There might be some metaphysical nature to it. And does that mean that it's a demon dog?
2,000 years ago, John the Revelator, the author of the book of Revelation, talked about the pit opening up, and out of this bottomless pit come creatures which mankind has never seen before. Is that just metaphor? Is it just the rantings of a man who's been exiled on the island of Patmos? Or is he seeing into the future? All I can tell you is this. People globally are seeing cryptids, dogmen, Bigfoot, and other things, Mothman-like creatures.
Got to witness something that doesn't really normally happen. Usually when you do Bigfoot and Dogman investigations or paranormal investigations, 95% of the time, you just sit there. Nothing really happens. It's not that exciting. But tonight, the whole day was different. We got up, we decided that we were going to go out for lunch. Dave and I were trying to figure out where exactly we were going to go, and he told me about this place called Turtle Nest Diner out in the Akwesasne Mohawk Reservation in Hogansburg, New York. And I was like, you know what, let's go. Yeah, it sounds great. And he's like, they have great burgers? They do. Oh my God, the food is so good. So we went there, right? And the owner ended up talking to us about his dogman sightings that he had on the back property, that they had paranormal sightings inside of the restaurant itself. So we stayed for a paranormal investigation. And during the day, Dave and I kind of sat there. We had a little bit of dinner later on at night, and we're sitting in the parking lot. And I'm snapping photos of the woods because people say that they actually see spirits, like, sometimes out in the woods. So I'm wow. Can't tell that I'm, like, hyper. So I'm snapping all these pictures, and then all of a sudden, as I'm snapping them, I realize that I caught something, and I look back at the area, and there's nothing there now. But take a look at this photo. So as you can see, there's something right here, and if it looks a little bit familiar, well, that's because it's a wolf. But it's big, and it also looks a little bit weird, right? There's the ears, there and there. We have the head, the brows, there's the snout, the first arm coming down, and the other arm is right there. Now, if you guys can't see that, I'll give you a little bit. There's your outline. So, as you can see, snout, brow, ear, and it goes back here, but this is just, I'm just rounding around where you can see. So you can see, like, the leg there. You can actually see a little black of the body back there, and then the first leg there. Pretty creepy, right? Wait. Later on at the night, we get done with a paranormal investigation, and we tell the owners, hey, it's time to go back to where you have the Dogman sightings, and where we just got that picture today. And they went, no, we're good, we're not going. You guys go ahead, though. Of course, me and Dave being who we are, we're like, yeah, let's do it, we're going. We were there for a total of 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Because at 6 minutes and 30 seconds, this happened.
Time to go. What the? Time to go. Time to freaking go. Something just clawed my truck. Something just clawed my freaking truck. That was your antenna. It touched your antenna. No. I need an adult. That was the antenna on top of my roof right above my head.
No, I'm 6'3", and I can't reach the antenna that's on the top of my truck. I'd have to stand up kind of like on the door frame to get up there. So that means this thing had to be between about 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall to be able to just flick it the way that it flicked. What happened was the antenna got flicked on the thicker part that's up towards the top of the antenna, about halfway up, and it flopped backwards because it's magnetic, and then flopped forward. That's not all, though. As something was leaving, it rubbed up right against the side of my truck. Now, if any of you have ever hit a deer, you know that deer have really coarse hair, and they will scratch the side of your vehicle when they bounce off it. Well, we found this.
As you guys can see right here, there's all of these scratches going right down there, and these were not here before we went to the woods. I'm going to get the video live so you guys can hear it, but I'm trying to see. Dave, the scratches go up all the way up my door.
So whatever this thing is came out of the woods on the left-hand side, driver's side, flicked the antenna, bounced into the side of the truck, ran down it, and back out into the woods. Before Dave and I could even turn the truck around and get the headlights on it. When I tell you, I have never felt my heart beat as fast as that. It was absolutely insane. Be careful when you're doing these investigations, guys, because there's a chance like something that this might happen.
Dogman, or a lichen type creature that was spotted in Bessemer, Alabama. Now, I did receive this from phantomsandmonsters.com, and this actually happened in the summer of 2016, around 8 to 8:30 p.m. It quotes, I recently received the following account from my associate Charles Henderson in Bessemer, Alabama. A friend reported this incident to me. His wife, mother-in-law, and him were traveling south on Shannon-Winona Road, going through Ross Bridge Parkway in Bessemer, Alabama, a suburb of Birmingham. As they get into the final stretch of the road, he noticed what he thought was two taillights of a car ahead of him about 100 yards away. But when they got closer, they realized that these were not taillights. They were actually red eyeshine from what looked like a werewolf/upright canine standing in the middle of the road. The friend was in the back seat with his wife driving and the mother-in-law in the passenger seat of a Cadillac Escalade SUV. His wife immediately slows down in order to avoid hitting this thing, and that's when he realized what he was looking at. He said in his own words, "Chuck, this SOB was huge, and it was cut too, like something out of Underworld." Despite the fact that him and his mother-in-law were in the front seat, this thing decides to lock eyes with him as they quickly drove past the creature. All this took place around 8 to 8:30 p.m. that summer night in 2016. Until this day, he won't take the trash outside unless he is armed. When I called Charles, he added the following information. He states that when he passed the beast, it was crouching on all fours. It was so massive that the back of the creature was level with the side mirror of the Cadillac Escalade. He estimates that the height was around 8 to 9 feet. The witness's description was that of a very tall, upright canine that looked very similar to the lichens in the movie Underworld. The large head was like that of a wolf with pointed, high-standing ears and a long snout. The mouth was slightly open and displayed long canine-like teeth on the top and bottom. The eyes were a bright red when the automobile lights hit it directly and remained a reddish tint as it looked at the witness. The body was very muscular, with a thick chest, narrow waist, and with long, thick legs and large, narrow feet. The arms resembled those of a well-built man. There was a thick black mane running from the top of the head down the back. There were patches of black hair/fur throughout the body, and the underlying skin was also black in color. The witness was taken aback when the creature locked eyes on him. This made a profound impression on him. There have been other incidents in the general area. Charles is investigating current reports and will contact me with further information.
It was a regular hike until it wasn't. I turned my head back around, and what I see, this thing should not exist, man. It shouldn't be there. Like, it's on all fours at this point. I am rooted to the spot. I cannot move because I'm in sheer terror. As soon as it walks out, I can instantly see its head. It had a barreled chest, and I noticed that when it walked out. And the other thing I noticed is its eyes. It was an amber color eyes, but there was something about the eyes, man, that were just terrifying and intelligent. When it stands up, I realize that it has hands like you and me would have hands. It puts its hands up. Oh my God. It puts its arms up and it starts wiggling its fingers, and I'm looking at its eyes, and its eyes are looking at me. I think it's about to attack me. I think that I am dead in the water. I truly thought that was it for me. I was so close to it. I saw the back of its throat. That's how close this thing was to me. And I in my mind, I'm like, if I run, I'm done. If I do anything else, I am done. And after that, it just goes back on all fours, snarls at me, and walks back in the woods.
So when I was younger, I grew up in Appalachia, the kind of place that was deep in the mountains, no neighbors, barely any cell service. So last fall, I decided to go back and visit my parents, and I wanted to go revisit an old trail that was behind my house. No bugs, no birds, no chirping. In the middle of the silence, it was broken by some footsteps that were behind me, and these footsteps were not going the same pace as me. However, when I would stop, they stopped. When I would go, they would go. So I picked up my pace, but when I turned, nobody was there. I ran all the way home, and I didn't look back. I left literally the next morning. Went back home. I was so spooked.
You guys got to hear this crazy dogman encounter. There's a guy who was in the National Guard, and he was close to the Matches Trace in Mississippi. And he was on his way one day, and it was at night, and he was driving, and he noticed what he thought was a cow off in the distance. So he said that he came around a corner, and this cow kept getting bigger, and next thing you know, it looked like a dog. And then he said the next thing you know, as he was driving by this thing, he noticed it had a head and a long snout. This thing stood up, and he saw its claw reach around a tree, pull itself up, and he took off out of there. Really scared him, freaked him out. He didn't know what to do, but he came back home, and he lived about 10 miles from where this happened. And he said that one night he heard this bipedal creature outside the door of his house, and it absolutely freaked him out. He could hear it breathing outside his window. Said he made himself go to sleep because he didn't know what else to do. But his grandpa was living with him at the time, and he got up the next morning, and his grandpa asked him, he said, "Hey, did you happen to notice anything weird around the house? I was up last night, and I saw this black creature outside of the house." He didn't know what it was, but it was lurking around the outside of the house. So he gets in his car, and he doesn't know what to do, and his dad calls him. He said, "Son, are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm fine." And he goes, "Why?" He said, about midnight, 11:30 midnight, God woke me up and told me to pray for you. So I was just making sure you was okay. He said, "Dad, that's the exact time." And he told him what had happened. It was about the exact time that it happened. I don't know what you do with that stuff. These things got to be worn flesh and blood.
This next photo was taken in Jedediah Smith Redwood State Park in California on May 7th, 2017. According to the photographer, the creature he captured was roughly 7 feet tall, easily weighing over 300 pounds. And considering he was standing about 90 yards away when he took this photo, not wanting to get any closer to it is perfectly understandable. What makes this photo especially interesting is the metadata analysis. Experts who examine the file has confirmed the image has not been altered. No Photoshop, no AI, no digital manipulation at all. Meaning whatever you're looking at was physically there in front of him.
Something ran through his blind, knocked him down, and he had some injuries. Immediately, the park shut the area down and cited that the bridge was unsafe to travel, and this is a bridge that takes you down to the area of the peninsula that is totally blocked off. Hellbent Holler has also found an area that was adjacent to this that was shut down back in the 1980s for the same reason. There was an attack there as well. Now they are attempting to open this area back up, just the one area where the juvenile was attacked. But this area that we're speaking of, Russian Creek, that's within a mile to all this of where my original attack took place in 1993.
Have you ever heard of my encounter story with Dogman? If you haven't, it's quite thrilling. It's really fascinating for me and most other people because Dogman in Washington State really isn't common. And I haven't really heard of many other stories of Dogman in Washington State. I didn't even know what it was when I saw it. And that's the thing about this is my mom and I saw it together. And we saw the same thing. We drew the same thing afterwards, and I am for sure that we saw something out there. So, about 25 years ago, my mom and I were driving up Highway 530 eastbound towards Darrington, towards my road, my godmother's house at the time. And we're just driving along, and all of a sudden, what looked like a huge dog, some kind of huge creature, ran into the road from, the south to the north, so going from our right to left, jumped into the road, got up on its legs, on its hind legs, and it got startled by us. It snarled, and it showed its teeth and pointy ears, little sharp claws, talons, or whatever they were. I don't know. They were It was wild, you guys. I have never seen anything like this before and since. Until, well, I digress. I'm going to tell you the full story. So we see this thing, gets up on its hind legs, and then it jumps down. It gets back down, and it jumps away. It, like, bounds off of the road, and of course I'm, like, slowing down, but at the same time I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to not stop for sure. And so it jumps off the road and runs away, bounds away on all fours like a beast. And this thing, you guys, it was huge. And it was kind of scary. I mean, I think we scared it, but it was definitely scary. I wouldn't want to be outside of my car having this encounter. So this happened, and we drove to my godmother's house, and I told her about it because it was so crazy and so shocking, and just didn't know what to make of it. So we told her about it, and she says, she's a Native woman, and she tells us about Wendigo. I'd never heard of a Wendigo before this, and so for years I'm thinking, okay, this is a Wendigo. And it still could have been. However, the description that she gave me didn't quite match what we saw. It just didn't feel resonant to what we saw, we encountered. So, years go by, and I am watching Harry Potter. I think it's the third one. And it's the one where Lupin turns into a werewolf. You guys, I'm not kidding you. I, had to stop it and, take some deep breaths because this was, the closest thing I had ever seen to my experience. And to realize that it was a werewolf that I had seen kind of left me a little bit shook at the time. And then years later after that, and then I showed my mom that, and she definitely believes that we saw the same thing. And the other piece I forgot to say is that when we went home the next day, we were still in shock. So we said, let's go in different rooms with a piece of paper and a pencil and let's draw what we saw. Wow. We definitely saw the same thing. I mean, we even way the road curved and everything. Can't make this stuff up, you guys. So I showed her, the Harry Potter, she definitely agrees that was the closest thing she's ever seen. So then I'm listening, I think, to, let's see, YouTube or is it Reddit or maybe Facebook or something, and it was talking about, it was story time, talking about cryptids, and I've always been fascinated with Sasquatch, and that's a story for another day, but in this show, it was talking about Dogman and East Coast experiences with Dogman, and it's really common over here, I guess. And wow, I believe I saw Dogman, some form of Dogman, and if it was a Wendigo, it was definitely in a Dogman form, because this was like a werewolf. It was huge, wolf-like, dog-like, but could stand on hind legs. So I've had many experiences since, and of other people telling me about Dogman, and I just really think that that's what it was. And my skeptical part of me wants to try to explain it away in different ways, but there was definitely some energetic of a cryptid in what I experienced that day. And I'd love to hear if you guys have ever heard of Dogman in Washington State before on the West Coast. I mean, this thing looked like it was traveling. It was going somewhere, and it wasn't sticking around. So, super fascinating stuff, you guys. I guess you gotta see it to believe it.
I said, come on. It's going to kill him. And I'm just really getting terrified now. and we hear a bang, 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 bang on the door real hard, and one of them yells, cops, let us in. We got a report that somebody in here is being hurt, and we need to know and see that everybody is okay. So he starts to go to open the door, and I'm like, no, don't open it. It'll get in here. And he goes, I've got to, or they're going to kick the door in. So he opens the door and says, yes, yeah, come on in. And he reached out to kind of get a hold of one of the officers by the arm to pull him on in because he didn't want that door open. And this officer looked at him like, hey, don't be touching. So they close the door, and we start telling them what's been going on, and they're looking at each other like, okay. And one of them said, you guys been partying a little hard tonight? And he goes, look at her books. They're nursing books. We're not partying. She's trying to study for finals, but this thing has been, at her window and scaring her, and now it came to mine, and I'm here going to try to sit with her so she could study. And they're going, okay, well, I don't know how to write that out. And the guy that had come up through the alley opens the door, and he goes, guys, you better come look at this. So they start to walk around to the back of the house, and I'm thinking I'm going with the guys with the guns. So I'm staying up with them. And as we get around the corner to the back, I see him just drop down to his knees like somebody had just punched him in the face. And I turned around to see, what had done that to him, and there was what was left of King. His right front leg was off. His his right front leg was off. Sorry. The back left was off. He had a hole in his torso, and his head had been ripped off and it looked like it had been thrown feet back in the yard. This white house had blood spray all over it from this dog. And I looked up, and good God, there was the hole this thing was tearing in. It looked like it was 3 foot by 3 foot. As we go walking over there, this officer said, God, they said it was ripping up the house, And they're looking at that kind of shaking their head. And this thing had got all the way in to, where they had the boards every few inches, and they put the sheetrock on it to make the internal wall. That's how far he had gotten in. One of those was cracked, and there was the sheetrock. Within the next 3 to 4 minutes, it would have been in there with us, tearing us up the same way.
Oh. Initiating doghouse protocol. There's no going back now.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, stay safe, stay aware, question everything, and remember, out there in those woods, something might be watching.